there, Selma. It's Troy LaPlante sitting here. And you've probably maybe had a chance to see one of my other videos that I had done. I've done two of them so far. One of which is simply the recordings that I had done for the Chamber of Commerce for their candidate survey. And I went ahead and shared that with you here on my YouTube channel. And I also did a video of an explanation of some stuff. So, but, you know, I only have a certain amount of time in which to give some explanations because, you know, you got to be concise when you're doing stuff like the Chamber of Commerce video. Now I can freeform it all I want. So here I am sitting, this is my office. This is where I've worked for the past 19 years here in the town of Selma. And I've got a list of things that I wanted to talk about, so I figured I'd try to do a different video on each of those. I'm no stranger to doing YouTube videos. I actually have a YouTube channel of my own up for my hobby. Matter of fact, you can check that out. fountainpenfanatic.com is what I do for a hobby. And I do that sitting right here at this very same desk where you see me. This is where I earn my living, right here in my home, here in the glorious town of Selma. So, wanted to give you a little bit of background. Why not? Let's start with that, okay? So, here I am, 1968. That's when I was born, so I'm 53 years old. I've been living in North Carolina since 1988. Now, if you read like the Johnstonian News, it said I was native of Jacksonville, Florida. No, not really. I was born there, lived there for the first 6 months of my life, just 6 months. My family is originally from New England, New Hampshire in particular. So my family eventually, after having been born in Florida and being where the jobs were, so I was told, New Hampshire is where I was raised. And did a lot of youth government programs. You know, the Elks Club had one for the local municipality. Let's see, the YMCA put one on where we actually went to the state government in the state capitol building and did the state legislature thing. Did that a couple of years and did Boys State. So I always enjoyed those kinds of things, and I looked at it as a chance to see what the service aspect of it was like. Not so much the ruling and being in charge, so much as the service end is what really interested me. And along those lines, as a teenager, I ended up serving along with our local fire department in the town where I grew up. And to the point where I decided, all right, maybe I want to pursue this for a career. So I got my degree in fire protection and then was looking for various jobs. I was working my way through high school and college in radio. So I had a radio job already. I had another job offer in radio that I could have moved over to, that I was given an offer. And then a job opening came up at North Carolina State University. Okay, I applied for it to work for their public safety department doing fire protection work for NC State. So I applied for that job. 9 months later, it was offered to me. I decided I'll go ahead and take it. So I moved to North Carolina. Packed up everything I had here in my early 20s, just me, didn't know anybody down here, decided to take the chance and go ahead and make the move. Worked there for several years for the state. Found there's some things that were really lacking. But I was offered a job from there in private industry doing corporate security and safety. So I did some work along those lines. Ended up selling burglar and fire alarm systems for a while. Did some work in radio. I even threw local newspapers for the Raleigh News Observer for a while, trying to make ends meet. Working in radio, I met a guy who he and I became really good friends at a radio station in Raleigh. He became the general manager of here in Selma, WBZB, down at 123 North Rayford Street. You know where Coffee on Rayford is right now? That used to be a radio station. And I used to be the morning guy, the morning jock. And I used to play the music, read the school lunch menus, and bring in the news, do interviews. I miss working in radio. I really, really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. So I went ahead and I took that particular job. Worked here half time because it wasn't an all day full time gig, and I have been working at the same job which I had half time. The other part of my employment that I still do now, only it's full time. For 27 years now, I have been working at one of the largest cable companies in America. The company policy is that I'm not supposed to mention the company. You can look on social media and find it. Anyway, it's just one of those things I was told by HR. We're really not supposed to be mentioning that stuff on our social media going out. So there you go. That was my first real introduction to Selma, was to come from Raleigh, to commute down here in the mornings, to do radio work right here, and I got to know Selma politics. I got to know the town. I got to see the quaint side, the really good side, the things I liked about it. I also got to see some of the things that weren't so pleasant as well. Some of those things have changed. Some of them haven't. But it seemed like a good small town that would interest me. Eventually, I could no longer afford to live in Raleigh. The townhouse that I had got to be really, really expensive. And the amenities kept going down. I lived in North Hills before they did the whole North Hills renovation thing, which, by the way, they did a fantastic job. Kane Development has really done a great job with North Hills. The apartment complex where I used to live has been torn down. They get some nice high-end houses that are there now, right at Six Forks at the Beltline. And so I ended up moving. I think I was still working at that radio station when I actually made the move to a place I rented in Smithfield for about 5 years until I could afford to buy a house. When we were looking for a place to purchase a home, I looked local to here, and one of the places that we looked at was in Selma. And I still live in that house today. We went ahead and purchased that house 19 years ago. It seemed like a decent town. It seemed like a good place for just myself and my wife. Fast forward, now I have an 18-year-old who is now out of high school, and he is working a couple of part-time jobs, looking at possibly getting a good full-time gig here soon. Graduate of Triple S. He has gone through all the way from kindergarten at Selma Elementary, Selma Middle, Triple S. Well, guess what? My next son, Selma Elementary, he's going through Selma Middle, next to go to Triple S. The next son, going through Selma Elementary, and then he's going to continue on that same track because this is where I've chosen to live. This is where I pay my taxes. This is where I go downtown to buy postage. This is where I go downtown to get coffee. This is where I go downtown to do business with my community. This is where I serve. This is my second time serving on the Selma Planning Board because, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to make sure it was different this time around that I served than it was previously. Talked to, Mayor Cheryl Oliver, who told me that I really ought to consider getting back on the planning board because, one, they needed people. They needed volunteers. And number two, because I had the desire to serve, but I really, really didn't like how things went previously. There were some issues with leadership. There were some issues with the town council and how they dealt with issues with the planning board. And I just said, I don't want that environment. So when my term expired, and at that point I had a newborn baby at home, I said, I'd rather spend time with my newborn baby and my wife at home than getting up, leaving them, and go do the drudgery and dealing with some of the conflict that I had to deal with. And on top of that, some of the stuff just being totally ignored by the time it got to the town council level. Things are a little bit different now. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually, I think, progress, and that's a good thing. So, here I am. I've given a lot of the answers so far as to why I ran for office, but, I mean, there's not a lot of excitement here. It's just steady. And it's steady concern. Steady concern for you, my fellow citizens. Steady concern over the fact that, we've got only 30% of the people in this town are homeowners. The other 70% rent their homes here in this town. So that means the elections that we have, that 70% of the people don't have the vested interest where they are directly taxed. So they're concerns as to where our tax money goes. So I want to encourage the town to have decisions taken that would encourage more home ownership. That I see that, do I see things in town that I think we ought to change? Absolutely. I'll address those one by one. I've got a list here, and I've got infrastructure, public safety, something as simple as sidewalks. We'll deal with stuff like civic centers and pools. Let's talk about the purpose of government, the effects of local government and the importance of it, how you can help me in the campaign. I'm going to talk about utilities, and I want to talk about local groups like Activate Selma and how they work here in our community for our betterment. Some of the great things that I've seen there, even though you don't have to be a part of an organization to see the good work that they do and be glad that they're doing it. Which, by the way, is kind of how town government at some point should be acting, should be encouraging of. All right, so those are some of the things that I want to cover, and I'll be doing little videos one at a time on those. Yeah, a little bit long-winded just to tell you a little bit about myself. What else can I tell you? My wife, my children, and I, we are Christians here, and we do go to a local church. Matter of fact, we're all members of the Bridge in Princeton, North Carolina. Just not too far from here. That seems to be a place that fit well with us, our lifestyle, and our desire for church body. Not that I have anything against places locally. There's a church 3 doors, literally 3 doors down from where I am. I don't have anything against them at all. They do some good works. And matter of fact, I see some of the stuff that they do, especially on Thursdays, because I live right near. But that's that denomination is not me. There's some other good churches that I've actually visited here in town, and some even that I haven't, that have got a good reputation. But they're not me. Some of them doctrinally so. Not that we have huge differences. We actually have a lot in common. But there is some things that just don't necessarily fit with me and my family. So that's where we've chosen to go. And let's see, what else can we tell you? We're just here. We love our town. This is where we've chosen to live and set down roots and raise our children. And those are some of the reasons why I want to help improve Selma and how I want to preserve some of the really good things I see here in Selma and encourage the growth and the preservation here in our town. So anyway, you can always reach me. votefortroy.com is my URL that can get you to my website, the blog format that I'm using for my website. TroyLaPlante.com is my homepage. You can always reach me through there. All my social media you can link through TroyLaPlante.com. You can always follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm going to try to use this channel, if I'm elected, to continue with issues, have discussions. I want to take questions and answers. I want to do Q&A videos. I enjoy doing Q&A videos where viewers or people who are local would ask questions, and I would have the chance to sit and address things, or maybe explain situations that are ongoing, that there may be some details that when you read news stories that you don't have all the details, so you just kind of scratch your head and go, why is that the way it is? That happens to me all the time. So I sometimes have to ask questions of my elected officials and say, what's the real deal here? What am I missing here? And then I get some details and I go, okay, now I understand why they did that or why that was a consideration. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to reach out to me. Troy at votefortroy.com is a real easy way to get in touch with me. And we'll talk more about how if you can get involved, if you want someone who has a common sense conservative, but I guess more libertarian style individual who wants to preserve your rights as well as mine, preserve and protect you as a taxpayer, wants to help progress our town, take care of the things that we need to take care of our infrastructure, develop those, and help grow our town and help prosper Selma.